do my best here, but I'm Amanda Villarreal, and I have been working with heart rate monitors, I would say, from way back in the day when I used to be at Prince and Johnson Controls. That is originally where I started learning about polar heart rate monitors and using them actually for fit scans, they were called, way back in the day, and fitness testing with people. And I found it fascinating, a way that was, many, many years ago now, that heart rate, even back then, nothing has changed. Our heart rate is a key indicator for so many things with our health. And I don't think that it is mentioned enough, especially when it comes to people trying to get in shape and with exercise. And I'll give you guys a few examples as we're going here. And this is a small group. Feel free to stop me at any time, guys, if you want. Unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. I muted you guys all, though, so you'll have to mute yourself. But one of the things that we use heart rate monitors for is measuring intensity. So obviously the harder you work, the higher your numbers are going to go. But the thing that we see is people start to work out, and if they're out of shape and deconditioned, you're going to notice that when people start to work out and exercise, their heart rates go from very low to all of a sudden very high, and they jump very quickly. And what you will see, the more that you learn and understand your heart rate, that can be a very key indicator to why all of a sudden someone says, I'm exercising all the time and I can't lose weight. Or I feel like I'm working so hard and I'm not reaching any of my goals. You will hear people saying, I have been really struggling because I feel like I'm tired all the time after I work out. And you might just think that that's what happens when you exercise, but actually you will find the more that you understand what your heart rate is telling you, that those are key indicators, for example, overtraining. So if you notice your heart rate is having a hard time recovering, or maybe you can't get your heart rate to stay at a certain zone anymore, it could be because basically you have been training too hard and you're now putting yourself at a greater risk for injury. So people think heart rate is only just for guiding exercise, but it can also be an injury prevention tool that we can look at how we're responding to exercise. I also find it interesting that when you are dehydrated, it can affect your heart rate. There are people that I have seen in classes that it's very interesting that they will come and we have their bands on and they're exercising and we know their heart rates, and all of a sudden they are like, 20 beats higher right off the bat. And I can tell you multiple people now that have said, the next morning they woke up and they were sick. They weren't feeling well because their heart rate was telling them right off the bat their body was working harder because they were fighting an infection or some type of virus. So your heart rate can even be an indicator for you're coming down with something. So this is just a really key thing to know because, again, I don't think people really understand as you're working towards goals of what your heart rate can be helping you to understand. So let's here really quickly walk through these zones. And again, we only have 20 minutes here, guys. I could spend easily an hour talking about heart rate monitors and the differences, but I at least want to give you an overview. So when we look at heart rate zones, they're called all different titles, and you'll go find a little different ranges with some of them, but generally you're going to see 5 zones. So when you wear a heart rate monitor or you wear a fitness tracker type watch, you will want to know what your max heart rate is. There's a couple ways to figure that out. The most basic way is to do 220 minus your age. That is going to give you a rough idea of your max heart rate. So if you're 40 years old, your max heart rate is approximately 180. But again, that doesn't take into account if you're really out of shape or if you're in really good shape. Your max heart rate might even be higher. And that's where we use what's called a Carbonian formula, which you can plug this into the computer and it will give you more of an estimated exact max heart rate if you know your resting heart rate. So this would be a great thing for you to basically learn how to do. Find your pulse or get a watch or something that tells you your heart rate. Figure out your lowest number. It can be while you're sleeping, or it could be at some point you're sitting for a while. Get your lowest number and plug that into that equation to figure out what your true max heart rate is. So once you know that, then you can start to plug into these zones. So we look at our zone 1 as our place of where a lot of people just beginning exercise. This is where they spend a lot of time. This is comfortable. You could talk. You can sustain this for a very long time. Now, I was talking about the beginning, how sometimes when people will totally skip, and you guys will, if you start to learn more and watch this with other people, you'll see this. They skip from 1 right up to 4. They don't like 2 and 3 because they've trained their heart to go from an easy place to all of a sudden really, really hard. And if you are reading on the screen here, you'll see that there are some really key factors you are missing if you're not getting into zone 2 and 3. So ideally, this is why, HIIT, high intensity interval training, those types of workouts, Tabata training, are finding with research to be some of the most beneficial types of workouts because you're actually able to vary your heart rate and hit the different zones. So if people are trying to lose weight, there was research supporting more time in zone 2 is actually very beneficial. If you're trying to train maybe for an endurance type activity, zone 3 is more of your aerobic place. You get into zone 4, and this is where we go what's called anaerobic. And anaerobic basically means without oxygen. So you're starting to deplete oxygen, and you'll see there, heart rate's going to be higher, and you don't generally sustain that for quite as long. Now, the more in shape you get, generally, the longer you can sustain these places, but it's still ideal you're seeing the other zones too. And then zone 5, this is where you will see a lot of people when they are excited and they're ready to get back into working out. They want to jump right up there and they want to go all out, and they can't figure out they're dead and they can't even make it through the day. And the next day they have no desire to exercise because they burn themselves out. So zone 5 is a fatigue place. We love zone 5, but you don't do this every day. This is something we incorporate in small amounts. So if we look at this as a big picture, this just gives us an idea of understanding. Our low place was 104 to 114 in this example of beats per minute, and we went up to 190. That's a big range. So if you're noticing your heart rate is maybe only varying 5 to 10 beats, you've got to mix it up. And that's where learning more about different types of activity can really challenge your heart rate to do different things. I feel bad because I did not ask these people if they could be on our screen tonight, but this was our class this morning and I screenshot it, so hopefully they won't care. But I wanted to give you guys an example and show you that this is an idea of trying to figure out what would be a good place for an average heart rate. So today, my focus for our spin class this morning was to be focusing on an aerobic heart rate zone. So if you remember on the last screen, that was about 70 to 80% of your max heart rate. So for the most part, we did pretty well, except me, but I'm the instructor, so I don't count because I'm usually telling everybody else what to do. So we see there the average, but we also see how much time we spent, maximum heart rate, and then that incorporates in how many calories you burn. But this will tell you a lot. If you're noticing you're always seeing the same average heart rate, or you're noticing, for example, one type of workout, you're not burning as many calories. It's interesting. If you keep your heart rate generally more in zone 2 and 3, you will oftentimes see that you burn more calories than you do in zone 4 and 5. Why is that? Because when you get in zone 4 and 5 and you're anaerobic, you're now burning from glycogen instead of fat storage. And that's why they say working in those lower zones is really helpful for burning more fat, because that's the stores it's coming from when you're in those lower zones. So hopefully that kind of gives a good example just to kind of, highlight why we want to understand these zones. And for some people, this is really overwhelming. And it's broken down, though, if you think about it. It's a way that we can enhance our physical training and know more about our bodies. And when you look at it that way, I don't find it to be as scary. But I also like to mention, it's kind of like what a lot of us on here, we from a supplement standpoint know that we don't like to just take any product because we've learned so much of the differences of supplements that are out there today. It's the same thing with heart rate monitors. So I do want you guys to realize that many of your heart rate monitors out there are not very accurate. Okay, so this is, I'm going to show you this one on the screen in a second. This is called the Polar Ignite. This is one of the newer ones. But this is a wrist-based heart rate. And a lot of your Fitbits, Garmin's, a lot of them have the wrist-based option. But I will tell you what, they are not even close to being as accurate as the strap option. So you can get these. A lot of companies have them. This is the Polar H10, and I do like the newer one because it's guaranteed you're not going to interfere with anybody else's signals. If you're ever doing a group class or you're with someone, that it's going to be personalized to you. but this has about a 1 to 3 beat variance compared to your wrist-based can be almost 10 to 20 beats off. So this is why I tell people, it depends what your training is. If you're just starting out, you know what, your watch may be fine, but you got to know that you're definitely going to have some times of maybe overlap of how it's delayed. You'll see that. But this, using a band, you'll notice it's way more accurate. Polar actually started in 1977 with heart rate monitors. So they have basically built the history of where heart rate monitors came from. If you look at a company like Garmin, they're known more for their GPSs. So think of the functions of what you want to be using this for, and that can help determine kind of the areas of focusing on which would be the best fit for you. I will tell you guys, though, that I've had so many people with issues with Fitbits, and I have heard very not good stories about customer service when they've had issues with theirs. So that's another thing to think about. Not that I'm bashing Fitbit. They have a lot of great products, but they're more commercialized. And I feel like Polar is, more in the U.S. It's definitely more of a specialized company for heart rate monitors. And I think that you will find the more you learn about it, if you really are looking at heart rate, this is by far one of the best researched and most validated through research products for using it for heart rate. But I also want you guys to understand when you're using a fitness tracker, there are other things that are super important. I want to show you guys a couple of things here that I think will be helpful for you. Some of the areas we really want to look at is understanding how this can affect and show us what happens with our sleeping. And when we look at what happens with our sleep patterns, it can be also another identifier for how our bodies are recovering, how we are feeling, what is happening if we are, for example, maybe trying different activities. You might notice how that affects your heart rate here. And I'm just going to show you guys here really fast here. I'm trying anyways. When I go into my Polar, if I sunk my watch, and I just pulled up here an example of, I don't even know, I just grabbed my one from Sunday here. So this is kind of cool. It'll give me an overview and a summary of what one of these workouts was. I think this was a run. And this is kind of neat too for you guys that are very visual. There's a feature on here, it's called Relive. And you could go back at any time, and there's different screens you can put on here, but it will show you a highlight actually of your workout. Can you guys see my screen? Make sure you nod for me. Okay, good, good. So this is just a recap. I'm going to fast forward, guys. This is only about a minute. But this is kind of cool because you can actually get a GPS view of your exact run if you want, and it will show you exactly where you're at. It gives you your altitude. And some people, they don't really care about this, but I think it's a really neat way to make you just kind of see your progress of where you went, to highlight what you did, and it will even show you, like I said, pictures of where you were at. It's kind of a cool, I have to switch my settings, John, I don't have it on this one, but it gives you your summary. There's my distance, there's my calories, and what my training focus was for this run. But this is what, guys, I think really separates this apart. Now, for some of you guys that are, maybe just trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? How do I know how this can guide my workouts? There is a brand new feature in this that when you sync your workouts, it will actually tell you your recovery status and what your workout should be the next day according to how your sleep patterns are and how your body recovers from your workouts. That's a pretty cool feature. I mean, it's very, very advanced in understanding this recovery focus, but I have been a big fan of helping clients with understanding, what, if you had a really high intensity workout, the next day it will tell you, you need to do something today that's more supportive for your body. So to give you suggestions, actually right on your watch, it will tell you, today would be a good day to stretch, today's a good day for core, and it'll actually walk you through exercises right on your watch to give you ideas to help support and what your goals are. And I think right now, guys, with a lot of us having to work out from home, that this is a really cool feature to know, because you might not know what activities to do. And if you can have it in your watch tell you, jog in place for 5 minutes, and there's a timer that goes off when it's done, you might be more likely to want to do some of the workouts because it's telling you to do it. So I think this is a great feature. But I also want to show you guys the sleep here really quickly. So I'm going to show you here, I think this was last night's sleep for me. You can actually go on here, and I have had clients that have actually been able to take this to their doctor. You can download the data from this, and you can probably do this with most of your watches, guys. Apple, I know, has this too. but you can download your feedback per second. You can actually track your heart rate and what it was doing while you were sleeping. And that can tell you a whole lot. People with sleep apnea, sleep deprivation, it can show you when you're waking up every night. It gives you your overall sleep score if you were actually sleeping, if it wasn't continuous, and that will help you to better guide, hey, am I noticing a pattern if I go to bed at 10 o'clock compared to 11 o'clock? Do I have more wake-up time? Or do I notice if I drink coffee after 6 o'clock that, wow, when I go to bed at 9, I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning? So these are just tools, guys, and every night, it's going to be, available that you can have this data that you want to go through and look at. So it's just another, again, I think, feature to help people realize your sleep is something that obviously you don't realize until you don't sleep well. As I see Sandy yawning over there. So Sandy, that was perfect timing. So our sleep tells so much into our body for if we are trying to lose weight, we are trying to better deal with stress, we are trying to maybe work on training for some type of goal that we're working on, that our sleep, this is key, guys, to understand this. And this will also, again, affect your workout. So I just wanted to take a second to share that, because I think a lot of your newer trackers out there are starting to incorporate this technology, but I have not seen any that also has that recovery feature. So to give you guys an example, this is the Ignite. This is, I said, the one that I find is the most, right now, I feel like it has the most general features that people would use, but there are a ton of options. And this one has GPS, it has your recharge, it has all the things I mentioned in it, but I love the fact that I just had somebody tell me again the other day that they had I can't even remember the brand of their watch. I hadn't heard of it before. But she had to charge her watch every day. I can get a week off from this thing before I have to charge it. So look at the things that, for me, I'm too busy. I don't have to worry about finding my battery charger all the time. Find things that, you really want to have. If you don't want to have your phone, for example, when you run, you don't have to if you have this type of watch, where if you really like the watches you want to be able to listen to your music through, you can't do that with this one. This is designed for, training purposes. So it's just something to also be knowing and give you some ideas of what, features you might be able to find here. So, all right, guys, let me open it up here really fast. Does anybody have any questions about heart rate monitors? Or, I should mention too, guys, I am a Polar distributor, and I don't say that because I don't make money off from really selling Polar. I just use it for my clients. So I do have a pricing that I get that I share with everybody. So if you ever did want Polar products, I will get them cheaper. So feel free to reach out if you ever need anything. But do you guys have any questions or anything you want to add? Or, I know Sarah's on here. I'm sure she would love to go over all the anatomy of the heart and all the details as a cardiac nurse, Sarah. But, we're just focusing tonight, guys, on just trying to give you some general overview. So is there anything you guys had a question on before I move on here? Okay. All right, so let's here really quick talk about what nutrients are best supportive for our heart. You guys are looking on the screen there. Just think really fast to yourself. Have I eaten any of those things yet today? Any fruits? Any vegetables? Good. So you're shaking your head. This is really important to have a high antioxidant diet for heart health, guys. So really keep this in so many different systems in our body, but it's a great reminder to continue to get that variety. And really, guys, this is something that we have to look at. What we do every day plays a part in our overall health of our heart. So it's never too late to get started, and small changes really do add up to make a big difference for heart health overall. There are definitely specific nutrients that if we were to look at adding supplements that we know have been proven clinically to be the most beneficial for heart health. And they do say that one of the best things you can do for your heart is to eat fish at least 2 times a week. And I know for a lot of people, we don't do that. And that is where we talk about supplements. And finding clean supplements can be very challenging, but a full spectrum omega option. That's what this you're seeing on our screen here is called Omega Guard. And this is a key product that they don't use heat to process this. It doesn't have any PCBs, mercury. It's completely, molecular distilled to remove any contaminants. But when you find what's in this, the benefits of this for cardiovascular health are incredible. And this is where you can't say, I'm going to take it once a week and I'll be good. You have to continue every day looking at this as a product to help continuously work on building, better heart health. So I wrote down a few notes here that people that take a full spectrum type of Omega product, which this one is called Omega Guard, they have proven they have a reduced occurrence of coronary heart disease and atherosclerosis. They have a normalization of blood pressure. They have a prevention of ventricular arrhythmias. They have lower triglycerides and lower cholesterol levels. And this is also involved in the production of hormone-like substances called prostaglandins, which have anti-inflammatory properties. So if you think about what I just said there, you just covered a whole lot of things. You got heart, you got vision, you got brain, you got digestive health. Every cell needs to have essential fatty acids, and that's what this is. So your heart is a big one, so we definitely want to know about taking a great product for covering all the bases of a good quality, like I said before, omega option. And I just wanted to, this was something that someone had shared with me a while ago, and it always stuck in my mind of, oops, sorry, I missed someone adding here, the pollutants that are found in a lot of products. And I know that many of us have heard of these. If you've ever been to a health food store, now Nature's Made, these are all very Twin Lab, these are all, you know, very common property or products. But the properties in these guys, if you're reading the screen here, that there are, you know, lawsuits that have gone against these companies several times now, and this was an older one, there's actually been more, that they found these products had high PCB levels in them. And this is where we talk about understanding the process that these fish oils have to go through to remove the contaminants is very important, and how they use heat and making sure that they do not kill any of the omegas. And also, people tend to notice they have a fishy aftertaste with a lot of the fish oil products, and that can definitely be because of how they are processed. So when we know that we can find a safe product that doesn't have that taste that is there forever, you know, that is very important. One more to mention here really quickly is something called CoQ Heart. Most people are familiar with CoQ10. That's a very common, you know, as people get older, they probably hear of this from their doctor. Anybody that's on a statin should be taking CoQ10. Oops, sorry guys. So I definitely would look at adding that if you are, you know, doing that and you're looking for options. But this is a really bioavailable source of not just, if you guys are looking at the screen there, coenzyme Q10, it also has resveratrol in there. And resveratrol has to do with aging. So it slows down the aging of your heart. So CoQ10, really, guys, from a cardiovascular standpoint, for circulation, reducing your risk of heart disease, if you're reading on the screen there, in order to get what is in one serving of CoQ Heart, you'd have to eat 10 pounds of pistachios a day. And all of the fat that you're probably getting from that would probably also make you gain weight. So taking this in a supplement form is definitely the ideal approach for adding something into your diet. So love CoQ Heart. And this also, guys, I will mention here, has way more properties like the other one than just looking at heart, even from the standpoint of, you know, your MS, your fibromyalgia, your chronic fatigue. Coenzyme Q10 really helps to reduce your vascular cells from wasting away. So it helps to continue to build. So any disease or disorder that causes the body to start to become depleted, this can help. So CoQ Heart is, again, a great one to know about. And here's just an overall quick mention, guys, for some people that really do need some help supporting their heart besides, you know, the exercise and the diet. You have high blood pressure, good thing to note there. We talked about Omega Guard, we talked about CoQ Heart, and there is also options naturally to help with cholesterol, you know, just to give you an overall picture of some great supportive nutrients for heart health. All right, and last couple things to mention, we do have a couple groups going on right now, guys, so if you're looking for some ideas, this is going on right now. It started today, so some exercise ideas for squats. We're giving you a smoothie recipe and a protein bite recipe every day this week, so feel free to look at that group on Facebook, and we'd be happy to add you. And we do have a smoothie workshop coming up this Sunday, so if you're looking for some ideas of heart-healthy smoothies, our focus this time is actually on immunity, but smoothies are an amazing thing also for heart health. So there'll be some great recipes for this one, and every month we continue to provide these as opportunities for people to learn more ideas of how they can have fast meals. So feel free to check out our smoothie workshop. And last thing we want to mention here, if anybody really wants to continue to learn more about Shaklee, there's our conferences coming up, and we have to mention it because it only comes once a year, and this year it is actually going to be virtual. And we are super excited about this because Everybody can participate. Even if you can't make it on the September 25th and 26th, you can have access for 30 days to any of the sessions, any of the workshops. You could go back and watch them. But you can get so much education and learning from this, so we want to just make sure you know about it. And anybody that's new, or if you are a member and you upgrade to a distributor, you get a free registration right now. So just wanted to make sure we highlighted that a minute. So, all right, guys, any questions or anything? You have any comments or something you'd like to add? Feel free to unmute yourself here a second. You guys are quiet. Hopefully it was helpful. I keep switching my screen here. All right, good. Well, guys, please let us know if you have some topic ideas